Welcome to Life and Love Nuggets, where licensed therapist Brent and Janis Sharp share how you can thrive in your life, your love, and your relationships. Hi, welcome back to Life and Love Nuggets. We are doing part 2 with Hayley Williams. Hayley is a licensed clinical social worker, and she's a certified play therapist. And we were talking last time and are going to continue talking about play therapy, therapy for kids in general, and maybe even touch on some things of what we can do as parents or grandparents to really help our kids express themselves emotionally and even identify emotions. Mm-hmm. I know, when I'm in therapy with clients, oftentimes I'll have adults that aren't really sure what their emotions are. They're happy, they're sad, or they're angry. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it. It's like, okay, there's the 3. And so I've even as adults had them get the emoji chart to really start looking at what their emotions are.
Yeah.
So you work with kids. Tell me what it's like working with helping kids identify their emotions or to deal with them.
Yes, absolutely. So I will say, it's very similar. Oftentimes kiddos come in and those are the 3 that they give me, right? Happy, sad, angry. And so with kiddos, I try to work on expanding their emotional vocabulary. And I like to do that in playful ways. So I have, these feeling spots that are based on this book, A Little Spot of Feelings by Diane. She has a lot of great resources. Okay. And has about 8 little stuffed animal spots that I love to use for kiddos because it's a good way for them to externalize those feelings and think about them in a more, in a deeper way. I also am a really big fan of the Inside Out movies.
Yes.
And I think those are so powerful for kiddos as well. I have some of those stuffed animals in my office.
Yes.
And kiddos love them.
And those are powerful for adults.
Yeah.
I've had adults come in and go, wow, I got so much out of that movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I think especially for children, feelings like anxiety can kind of be like a hard concept to address. They have it, but they may not be able to understand, what I'm feeling is anxiety. And so when they have that little character that they can hold, and they have, the external representation of what this feeling is, that can be really powerful for them.
That's great. That's great. So what are some books that you use to help kids? I mean, whether you use them in your office or parents use them or whatever, what do you recommend?
Yes. So I love, again, the feeling spot one that I showed you. There's also for kiddos with anxiety, I love this book called K-Warrior. And this book, it's, you can kind of see he's a little funny looking guy and he represents our amygdala. And so I use this to talk with kids about our amygdala and our anxiety and how sometimes our amygdala is always trying to protect us, right?
The amygdala as that part of the brain.
Yes, exactly.
The fight or flight part. Yeah.
Yes. It's always trying to protect us, right?
Yes.
But sometimes it will turn on and try to protect us from something that really isn't dangerous, right? So it could be a shadow in the corner that kid sees in their bedroom, right? And their body goes into fight or flight, right? And, but it's not actually dangerous. It's not actually trying to hurt them. Whereas if there was a tiger in their bedroom, we would want that fight or flight.
That's a whole nother story. Yeah.
Right? That would be alarming.
Yeah.
And so I think, teaching children that part of our brain is important and it's not bad. But also sometimes it overreacts, right, in an effort to protect us. And so I also talk with kiddos about externalizing that. Let's give our amygdala and our brain a name. They can name it whatever they want. They can draw a picture of it. It can look however they want. And that makes it a little more concrete. Because kiddos often struggle with the more abstract concepts, and especially when you get into the brain and neuroscience, a lot of that is hard even for adults,
right?
And so making it in little bite-sized pieces for kids to understand is really powerful.
Well, and what I love about having books like that is it's so tempting as adults when the kid's like, there's a monster in my room, or I saw something scary, to go into the, oh, no, there's not. Don't be silly.
Right.
And we don't validate those real feelings. Just like we may be in traffic and we have high anxiety. And, somebody else would go, why are you anxious over that? This is the trip you take home every day.
Right.
Validating that even though there's not a monster in your room, just, oh, that's scary.
Right.
I can see why that would be hard for you.
Yeah, it feels so real to them.
It does.
Yeah, so helping them name those feelings and then helping them learn coping skills, like deep breathing or repeating a phrase or a mantra,
That's good.
to help their bodies calm down instead of just saying like, oh, it's not real, get over it, right?
Right. Go to sleep.
Exactly.
Just go to sleep. Yeah. So what would a phrase be? Like if you've got a 5-year-old and they're feeling some anxiety.
Yeah.
What kind of phrase? Again, I'm putting you on the spot, but what kind of phrase would you use for a 5-year-old?
So I would have them say something like, I am safe, mommy is near, I'm going to be okay.
Good.
Or I'm safe, daddy is near, I'm going to be okay. I think kiddos respond to rhythm, sing-songy, really well. And then I think that also can just give them cues of safety in their body of reminding them, their brain might be telling them they're not safe, but they are, mom's close by, dad is close by. So something like that. And it doesn't have to be exactly that. I think you can fit it to whatever makes sense for you and your family. I know, some families that are Christian like to have their kiddos recite scripture or, a scripture that's meaningful to them. I think that can also be a great thing to do. So you can fit it to what your child needs.
Yeah. I know you use lullabies for the kids to go to sleep, scripture lullabies that I think are just incredible. Maybe we should listen to those at night.
Oh, yes.
But I think that is so effective in helping them calm down. Now, I do have to say the first time they stayed with us after they started the lullabies and they were like, we need our songs. I was like, well, who does the lullabies? And they said, Taylor Swift. And I was like, does Taylor Swift have lullabies? And no, it was not Taylor Swift. They're just used to mommy listening to Taylor Swift so much.
Every music is Taylor.
Yes. Sorry for those of you that do not like Taylor Swift, but it's pretty popular around here. So I think that's interesting, having something that helps them calm down, that they're hearing good and positive messages even as they go to sleep.
Yeah.
I think is so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Just increasing those cues of safety. So using music, using rhythm, even using touch. Like I think that's why I think a lot of kiddos love stuffed animals is having, that touch, that heaviness against them is really comforting. Some parents might like to use weighted blankets. They make weighted blankets now for kiddos that are, the right weight. They aren't too heavy for a kiddo. They also make weighted stuffed animals, which I think are awesome that they can put on their chest and help. I like to teach kiddos to deep breathe using their belly breaths and put their stuffy on their stomach. Oh. And so as they, breathe in with their belly, their stuffy will move, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's like a visual cue of like, I'm deep breathing, So I think there's a lot of ways that you can cue safety for kiddos, but I think music is powerful, touch.
Yeah. I like the warmies too.
Oh, yeah.
You can put in the microwave and they can warm up. They're in animals now that you can do that, not just a heating pad. And I know when grandkids come over, they want to get my little sheep that I use when I have a headache, and they want to play with that or they want to hold that.
Yes.
Because that warmth is really soothing.
Yes, we have a little red panda stuffed animal that I got on Amazon, and you put it in the microwave and for like 2 minutes or something, and it has like those beans or whatever it is inside of it, and it warms up, and my girls find that really comforting. So, if they're sick or if they're sad, like it can just be really comforting. I will say I was a little jealous that they kind of stole it from me because I was like, we're going to all use this as a family. And then they were like, Mom, you can't use it.
Well, they call my little lamb my special friend.
Oh.
So, yes. So it's like, yes, you can play with my special friend now while you're here, but you can't take it home with you.
Yeah.
But it's comforting.
It is. It is. And I think, that's another just sense of that warmth, can be really
That's
helpful.
good. So I'm going to switch gears for a minute.
Yeah.
I know you don't just see young children, which quickly, what ages would kids be? What are the appropriate ages for play therapy?
Yeah. So I always say about the youngest would be 3, and the oldest would be about age 12.
Okay.
Although I will say that I do sometimes use some play therapy techniques with my older kids, like teenagers, and even adults. And I mean, I know there's a lot of research going on right now and using play therapy with older adults in nursing homes and things like that. And like we talked about on our other episode of, trying to re-engage that play muscle, right? As we're later in life, because it's still important, but we lose track of it. But for traditional play therapy, I would say about ages 3 to 12.
Okay. So tell me about working with teens, because you've got to shift gears there. I mean, I would think it would be like, okay, I'm painting with this one and now I have a teenager coming in.
Yes.
Tell me about, what do you like about teens? What do you do with them?
Yes. I think teens are so much fun. I think, therapy can look very different with teens depending on the teen. As you mentioned again in our other episode with like children, some children will get in the car and they will tell you all about their day, right? And some will say, oh, it's fine, Teens are similar. So I think some, will really thrive in very similar type of therapies to an adult, right? So they're able to articulate their feelings. They're able to, think of more complex concepts. Which to me is really fun because I love to see that type of thinking develop in them. And so that's really cool. But then there are some teens that struggle with talking about their feelings and their emotions. And that's when I like to incorporate art. I have, teens do mindful coloring, or I might have them do a collage to kind of like a self-expression thing of like, what are the things you like? Or, and that can kind of help, especially some of my neurodivergent teens who struggle with conversation and like eye contact and paying attention, to what I'm saying. It can be really helpful for them to have a fidget or color or doodle, have something to keep them more engaged.
I do have to say something about collages. Well, I was at some training in upstate New York, and one of the things they had us do was we had all these magazines, and we were to cut out pictures and do a collage. And I'm like, I was like 60 years old at that point, and I'm like, and I'm going to play with magazines and glue. But during that training, my sister had passed away. And so we sat there, and I thought, well, why not, and so we sat there and we did it. And it was so powerful to me to see how it impacted me and how much of my collage, without thinking about it initially, really revolved around my sister and dealing with my grief.
Yeah.
And so it seems like you're cutting out pretty pictures in a magazine, but that can really be used. I mean, I think God can use that. I think our brain uses that to really bring up some of the things that we're dealing with.
Yes. I think as a society, we love to intellectualize our feelings. We love Google. We love to know exactly what's going on, right? But I think those creative art activities can access that right side of our brain, the more creative, the more emotional side of our brain. And that can be so healing, right? And it can even help, we stay so much in our left brain, but our right brain is just as important. And so I think feeding that is amazing, especially for grief, but for all kinds of issues.
Anxiety,
yes. Getting in that right brain is important.
Yeah. There's so many things that we just don't express or don't acknowledge because we do tend to be more thinkers than feelers, but the feelings are there, and then they suddenly erupt somewhere.
Right.
And people are like, what is wrong with you?
Yes.
But oftentimes it's all those feelings that we've been stuffing down.
Right. We always say, you have to feel it to heal it, right? So you have to, acknowledge those emotions and allow them to be as they are in order to get past them.
So do you feel like with teens and kids, a lot of what you do is you help educate them about feelings and give them permission to have those feelings to begin with and then to share them?
Yes, absolutely. As we've, mentioned before, I think a lot of people, even adults, struggle to identify the feeling. They might think they're feeling sad, but maybe underneath that sadness, there's disappointment, and I think being able to recognize that feeling that's underneath it is so significant and validate it. Oh, that makes sense. You feel disappointed, I think that is a huge part of it for children and teens and adults, right? But I think it just looks a little different for children and teens. And then, having them be able to express it and handle it in healthy ways. I always say there are no bad feelings, right? It's okay to be angry, but if we're angry, we're not going to go, punch a classmate in the face, right? We're going to express our anger in more healthy ways. And I think play therapy can be really helpful for getting that aggression out in a way that is healthy, contained, and appropriate.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the scripture where Jesus says, in your anger, do not sin. It doesn't mean we're not going to be angry. It's not, which a lot of Christians go, okay, so you shouldn't be angry. We're going to be angry.
Yeah.
We're going to have all kinds of feelings. And usually all those feelings get lumped into anger, whether you feel disrespected or intimidated or overwhelmed or whatever it is, it gets dumped into anger. But it's, what do I do with that so I'm not causing harm?
Yes.
Either to myself or to anybody else, or that it's not productive for me.
Yeah.
This is going to cause me problems at work, or this is going to cause kids problems on the playground. If they're erupting over something, they're not going to have friends. It's going to be difficult for them to interact with people. And so it's teaching them those skills that are so helpful.
Yeah.
And as you said, I think in our last episode, if we could just get kids good at these things, then we're going to have a better society.
Absolutely.
Because people are going to know how to deal with those emotions and know that it's normal to have all kinds of emotions.
Yes.
You're not supposed to just be happy all the time.
Exactly. I know so many adults who will say, I just wish I had these tools that I have now when I was a child, and I think so being able to give those tools to children and empower them that you don't have to be controlled by your feelings, right? You can recognize, acknowledge them, validate them, and choose a different way to act.
Yes.
I think that is so empowering.
Yes.
For kiddos.
That's good. Okay, so I'm a parent coming in, and my child, my 6-year-old, is dealing with a lot of anxiety. What can I do as a parent? How do I help my child deal with anxiety?
Yes. Well, I would say, the first thing, bringing them to therapy is a great first step.
Good.
I always like to just validate how difficult it can be to be parenting a child with anxiety. Oftentimes, anxiety, especially in younger kiddos, can look more like defiance. It can look like, oh, they're just not listening to me. They're not doing what they're supposed to. And really the root of that sometimes is anxiety. They're afraid, you know? So I think, that is the first step. And then there is a book I recommend to parents. It's called Breaking Free of Child Anxiety and OCD. And it's by Eli Leibowitz. And I like this book because it really empowers the parent of, we can't control our child, right?
Right.
Our child's they're their own person. They're going to do what they're going to do. But we can control how we respond to the anxiety. So we can set boundaries and loving barriers while also giving our child the coping skills that they need to handle it we can also decide, we're not going to let this anxiety overtake our whole house.
Yeah.
We're not going to change the way that we live our life because of this anxiety. Because I think that happens so quickly. It's like, you're like just trying to make it better for my kid. And then all of a sudden you're going way out of your way, doing all this ridiculous things, bending over backwards for your child's anxiety. And I think in some ways that gives the anxiety more power.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's almost validating for the child. Oh, yeah, you're right. This is a big fear because mom and dad are also afraid.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to show your child your fears are real. They're valid. I hear you. I'm here with you as you cope with them. But also, we're not going to upend our lives for it because this is not a real threat, right? And showing them that you are the sturdy leader, that they need. And I think that's a difficult balance, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because we want to be empathetic and we want to validate feelings, but we also don't want them to stay stuck.
Yeah.
So I think that system, I think it's called the SPACE system, can be really helpful for helping parents navigate that nuance of
that's good.
How do I stay supportive, stay empathetic, but also not accommodate too much to where I'm actually making the anxiety worse.
Yeah, that's good. And we will have the name of these books in the show notes so that people can get them if they need them, because I think that's important. You feel helpless as a parent when your kids are experiencing these feelings. And sometimes the parents have struggled with the same thing too.
Absolutely.
And so you'd think it would be easier, but there's a part of us that's like, I don't want you to feel that way because that's hard.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's like, what do you do? And so I think even probably some of the breathing techniques that you use with the kids, parents doing that type of thing, or parents coming in and saying, will you teach me how to do some of that, Hayley, so I know what I'm doing?
Yes.
Because my kid's saying, I need to breathe like Miss Hayley told me to. And the parents are like, okay, I need to breathe like that too.
Right.
I think you can be really helpful.
Yes. And I think so much of parenting is being able to regulate your own emotions, right? Oftentimes our kiddos struggle with things that, like you said, we struggled with.
Right.
Or that are triggering to us from our own childhood. Maybe we remember, I remember being that afraid of that, or I remember that. And so we might start to feel anxious, like we don't want our child to go through that. Or, as I mentioned earlier, sometimes anxiety manifests as defiance. And so we start to feel disrespected and we start to feel all these feelings ourselves.
I'm not going to have that in my family.
Exactly.
They're going to respect me.
Exactly. Why aren't you listening to me? That can be so frustrating. And so I think being able to manage your emotions as the parent and stay calm, and even when you are triggered, right?
Because we all will be.
We will be. I mean,
we're humans, raising humans.
Exactly. And I think, our kiddos they came from us, right? They know what triggers us, not intentionally, but
sure.
They often have a lot of similar struggles. And so I think, just being able to regulate your own emotions and work on yourself, I think as a parent, managing your own anxiety is so important as well. Yeah,
that's really good. Now, I will say, in terms of your own parenting, you're not allowed to write any books, exposés on your dad and I until after we're dead. And I'm telling you, Hayley, I'm planning on living a long time.
Then all the secrets are going to come out.
Well, until my 90s. So everyone who would have known us well will be dead too. So we're just going to wait on that.
Okay.
I don't want to hear about my bad parenting.
No.
It's been really fun having you. Yeah. This has been a great thing. Again, I'm going to remind everybody that Hayley is Hayley Williams, not Hayley Sharp anymore. Hayley Williams is with The Art of Raising Humans with Kyle and Sarah Wester, who we really love. And they have a great podcast on parenting, by the way, that is really good. So if you want to contact her, can they just go online and email you or set up an appointment? What do they do if they have a kiddo they want to bring in, or a teenager?
Yes. So artofraisinghumans.com. You can go check it out. You can schedule online with me, get more information. Our phone number is on there. My email address is Hayley, Hayley, at artofraisinghumans.com. You can find me there as well. And I'd love to connect.
Good. good. Well, thank you. Thanks for being with us
thanks
and
for
just
having
sharing. And thank you guys for being with us and listening today. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. I know there's an email place on the website that you can go to, brentandjanischarp.com. But thank you for being with us, and we will talk with you next time.
The Life and Love Nuggets podcast is a 501c3 nonprofit and is supported by gifts from people like you. To donate, go to lifeandlovenuggets.com/donate. This podcast is produced by Clayton Creative in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The content should not be considered or used for counseling, but for educational purposes only.